Hockey, ready. It's time. It's time to get excited. It's time to get fired up. Tomorrow, the season begins. But first, we're going to talk about something else. Right, Russ.
So let's talk about John Cusack for a minute. I won't mention the outlet because they're a bunch of trolls and loudmouths, but they tried to attack John Cusack for not being a true White Sox fan, and he can't root for them as a result. Meanwhile, the guy did a movie about him, and he's a Chicagoan, and he's been very vocal on Twitter, really about both teams, the entire existence on Twitter. So I thought to celebrate John Cusack and to let the trolls know that just because somebody is a Hollywood actor doesn't mean that they're not truly invested in that part. And he said it was an honor just today to play that part for 8 Men Out. So I'll go with 8 Men Out and just say that was a tremendous movie. You could probably pick out 10 great John Cusack movies, but it's one of the great baseball movies of all time. So I kind of elevate it even because of that. So I just thought, you know what? Good for him for smacking this guy down a bit.
He was a great Buck Weaver. He was phenomenal in the movie. I mean, if you're going to go movies, obviously Better Off Dead is one of them that's on the top of the list for most of us. But Cusack is a huge sports fan. I mean, you talk about Hollywood actors, right? Paul Rudd, huge Royals fan, was actually on the field when they won the title. John Hamm is a huge St. Louis fan, Blues fan, and Cardinals fan. There's a smattering of them around that are huge sports fans in addition to them being Hollywood actors. I don't think the two terms have to be mutually exclusive. You can't be a baseball fan and a Hollywood actor or a sports fan, given what we've seen in terms of the industry as a whole.
No, for sure.
Cusack and Chelios are really good friends.
Oh, really?
They run around together when Chelios is out in his California home.
Wow, yeah. I mean, it's very true. Obviously, as you guys know, we had for years. We had Matt Barry here as our LA Kings writer, and he's also the guy who was the casting director of movies like Mars Attacks and other movies like that. So he was always telling me on all the different celebrities and how much they just loved hockey. And yeah, it's an amazing list. I mean, there's an incredible amount. They're not, and everyone's like, oh, it's not just the Canadians, it's not just the Canadian actors. It's the American actors too. Jason Segel, who many might know from How I Met Your Mother. He's a Hockey Buzz follower. I talked to him. I've talked to him many times. It's just like these guys are really big. And Natalie Portman was another one who was a hockey person.
Yeah,
I've talked to.
Well, it's fun. It's funny because I would choose 8 Men Out as well as my favorite Cusack movie because I consider doing my master's thesis on something related to the Black Sox scandal, but I saw him. He did a tour a while back about because it was the 25th anniversary of the movie Say Anything. Mm-hmm. So he toured around, showed the movie, and then did like a Q&A with fans. And I love that movie, even though it's sort of a sappy romantic comedy. But it's a Cameron Crowe movie, and it's really good. But he hates Better Off Dead because if he
hates the phrase. I don't think he hates the movie.
The $2.
He just doesn't want to hear anybody say, "I want my $2" anymore." Like I get it.
Yeah. You get sick of it after a while.
He's had Grosse Point Blank, Serendipity.
Great, even better soundtrack.
There's also
High Fidelity.
High Fidelity is very underrated.
That's great. Yeah. Can I give everybody, before we get to the show, one quick thing that I just discovered a show that I don't think anyone really knows about, but it's amazing. It was only on for one season and got canceled. I'm a big Parks and Rec guy, but I'm also a big Rob Lowe fan. Like I like Rob Lowe a lot, and I think he's just seems like a genuine good guy. And if you listen to his podcast, it's really solid. He did a show right after Parks and Rec called The Grinder. Do you guys see it at all?
Yeah, I saw The Grinder. It was good. I liked it.
It's really
it was because it was smarmy. It was very good.
It's very funny, and it's it's crazy good. It's only a season of it. You can get it on Amazon Prime.
It's worth a watch.
Rob Lowe ran with Bernie Nichols when he was in LA, and then when he came to New York, Rob Lowe would come into town, and he and Bernie would do the club thing. One of the great Youngblood. One of the great hockey fans that a lot of people forget about is David E. Kelly because they don't know his connection. He is Jack Kelly's son. And Jack Kelly, of course, was with in the World Hockey Association coach of the Whalers. And so David E. Kelly would run around there and was, always on the inside of what the Whalers were doing because he was a very bright young kid. And like most of the old Whalers, remember David E. Kelly running around, the rink and talking hockey. He was really intelligent, obviously.
Well, my favorite celebrity hockey fan is Margot Robbie for obvious reasons.
At the Rangers.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
don't have to say anything more about that one.
Yeah. Well, again, remember when Gretzky went out to LA, right? That the fan bases. You looked in the all lower row, right? You had Goldie Hawn, you had Kurt Russell, you had the whole front row of all the fans who started showing up.
Schwarzenegger, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember Schwarzenegger. He was there.
Schwarzenegger was at LA Kings games. Yeah.
Wow.
Was Hawn and Russell on the board a lot though?
If he wasn't at very many. I know that.
No, not very many, but I know he was at least a few.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan went to one game as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. The only reason I know that is, I just did Bernie's book, and we spent a lot of time because Bernie ran with celebrities talking about who was there, and Schwarzenegger never came up. I'm pretty sure I would have heard about it. So
I'll just say this quickly: the worst scene I have ever seen in terms of like people are at a hockey game and something happens. Lethal Weapon 3, when Mel Gibson jumps on the ice and gets checked by. First of all, it was a Toronto versus LA game, and they didn't have the rights from the NHL, so the Leafs were wearing like a playing card, like a spade on there, and the Kings were wearing sort of a blank jersey. It just said LA or something like that. It was so terrible. I mean, get the rights from.
Did it really bother you? Like,
yeah, because get the rights from the NHL. Spend the $50 to get the
$50.
I know,
$100,000.
More.
Mike's still upset about sudden death with Van Damme in terms of the hockey scene. Also, so.
Yes, that
sudden death was actually okay. As those movies go. You know what I mean? It wasn't bad, and Baldwin's wife wrote it, and he produced it. And
right.
So,
right. All right, let's get going here. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to go talk about the Metro Division, and we got some news we're going to blow through quickly to get through everything. And then we're also at 2:00 is when the waivers will. And there are 43 guys on waivers yesterday. So I'm curious at 2:00 when if the waiver claims come through, if any of the 43 players on waivers are claimed.
There should be one or two.
Should be at least one
or two.
I would think there'll be a couple. You don't think any, Russ?
I think they're all complicit, and nobody's going to touch anybody else's players.
Well, I just think everybody's having a hard time as it is to get down. If you take one of those guys, then you got one more guy you got to get
Are you saying there's collusion in the NHL?
I'm not saying collusion. I didn't use that word.
You said complicity is pretty much the same as you're implying it. That's all.
It's combined misery. How about that? We'll call it combined misery. They're all in the same boat. All right, here we go. That's the date is.
The date's irrelevant.
October 11th, Dak.
Thank you. I knew that. It's Columbus Day. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving in Canada, by the way. But I forgot about that. Of course, it's October 11th. Hello, Hockey World. It's October 11th. Happy Thanksgiving and Indigenous Peoples Day in America. It's October 11th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and happy Columbus Day. And also congratulations to the New York Islanders for finally announcing Zdeno Chara and Zach Parise's contract. Way to go.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Jan Levine. If we had one more member and give him an A on their chest, we can match the Rangers in terms of how many associate captains they have without a captain.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Kevin Allen, HockeyBuzz.
And I'm Eckler. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. It's also a Monday, by the way. I always say the day of the week because I know that better sometimes. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. It's the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And the thing we have to start with, and we have Jan here, is the big signing of Mika Zibanejad over the weekend. Really kind of not a surprise signing, and everyone keeps. It's amazing to me how many people are saying, "Oh, but Barkov said this." I don't think they were tied together that much. They both had to get done. I think that they were both about what they were going to get. I didn't think that the Rangers were waiting for Barkov to sign his deal. But what do you think, Jan? What are your thoughts?
So a couple things. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that they were waiting on Barkov, but clearly there was the hope that Barkov would make it to free agency, though I think they all pretty much got the signs over the summer that he wasn't going to happen. Yeah. Zibanejad has been pretty vociferous and vocal that he wanted to stay. He wanted probably closer to $9 to $10 million a year. The Rangers supposedly wanted a shorter term. They met in a longer term, but in terms of the dollars, lowered the dollars. But a couple of interesting things, the contract. One, the base salary is only $1 million per year. And in terms of there's a sliding scale in terms of the salary. So first of all, it's basically buyout proof because the fact you're not going to get any relief if you buy it out because of the salary. B, he's got a no movement clause until the 7 days before the last year kicks in and it becomes 21 teams. So to me, I hate giving out NMCs, especially like that. Granted, you wanted him to stay. I probably would have gone 5 or 6 years. I really thought that if they're going to do that, they might have gone 6 years because in year 7, if you gave him the bonus the way the salary is structured, there you could probably find a team that's looking not to pay a lot of salary but willing to take on cap room potentially if you wanted to get rid of him. Basically, they made a commitment. Look, if it's 8 years. Barkov deserved the 8 years because he's 2 years younger. He's a Selke Trophy winner, a little bit better of a player in terms of overall, especially between the dots. But Rangers locked up the number 1 center. Zibanejad wanted to be there. The tournament's fine. The dollars are fine. It probably, or potentially, let me put it that way, not probably, potentially, takes him out of the Eichel sweepstakes unless Sabres are going to eat some money because you got Adam Fox down the road. You're going to have Kakko down the road. You're going to have Lafreniere down the road. You're going to have a lot of guys you're going to have to pay down the road. You have Kreider and Trouba still on your books. But overall, solid contract. You got your number 1 center. You have a guy who's become a much better player in New York. And if you look back to the trade and look at the comments from the trade made July 18th, 2016, when they got Zibanejad and some of the pushback when they made that deal to now, Jeff Gordon made out like a bandit in that trade in terms of getting Zibanejad and the draft pick and what Zibanejad has become. So, look, a fair deal overall. They locked up their number 1 center. You don't have to worry about it down the road. The only thing you're going to have to figure out is who's your number 2 down the road. Do you re-sign Strome? Do you maybe get Thomas Hertl next year? What happens with Eichel? But overall, I think most Ranger fans are ecstatic with having him here. I think most Ranger fans are ecstatic with the deal overall. Like I said, the only thing I would have liked was maybe a little bit shorter return of an NMC, but you're picking at little things there.
Russ, I don't see how it is possible for the Rangers to be in on Eichel now, since Zibanejad's no move clause is immediate. It's not like it goes into effect. There's not a Jeff Carter or Mike Richards situation where they can trade him before the no move clause kicks in. It's immediate, so he can't be moved. So I don't see how they can afford to sign Eichel, even if the Sabres retain a couple $1 million.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think they honestly waited on this until they realized we're not going to do the Eichel trade. And then they went and did this, which was smart. Again, there were a lot of Ranger fans that didn't like the trade for Zibanejad because he wasn't doing great in Ottawa. But I kind of defaulted back to when he played, the way he played in the World Juniors, the way he was a leader and a clutch goal scorer, and just that great shot. And I was happy about the trade. He's become even a better player than that. The Rangers have had a hard time with getting a real number 1 center. He's more of a number 1 center than Derek Stepan was. No offense to Derek Stepan.
Is he a number 1 center, though? I guess he is.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Obviously, with his contract, he is.
No. He is a
true number 1 center.
He's a true number 1 center.
But we have talked about him not being a number 1 center over the years.
No, I mean, I don't know who's – maybe at the very beginning there was wonders, and there hasn't been a wonder in a while. I mean, in 2019-20, he had 3 hat tricks. The record for the Rangers for hat tricks is 4. He had a 41-goal season for a center. There haven't been many Ranger centers with 40-goal seasons. He's already eclipsed some pretty big marks that he probably doesn't get enough credit for, and to do that in New York is a big deal. So this is a great signing, great AAV. And now the question will be, who's the number 2 center soon? But that's fine because they'll either hold on to Strome or they won't. But they have to see. So far, they haven't had anybody develop into what could be a number 2 center. So Strome may end up getting re-signed too.
Kevin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's a completely different player than he was when they acquired him. He has indeed become the number 1 center, and he was very effective. And really, the only reason that he was off, it seems to me, was the COVID. I mean, if there ever was a player that defined what life after COVID was, it was him. He was sluggish. He wasn't right. He didn't seem to have the jump and the movement. It looked like he had a bit of long hauler syndrome, and he kept denying it because that's what hockey players do. I'm playing through it. I'm tough. And it was a good signing. I think they actually could make a run, but I don't think they want to give up the assets. I think they could trade Ryan Strome. I think he is marketable. And I think you could carve out, if you can get Buffalo to take a little bit, they could probably do that. And as a Zibanejad Eichel center combination, which should certainly be effective. But I just don't think when you factor in what you have to give up,
Yeah.
I don't know that it makes sense for them.
One thing about that I want to bring up, because we always hear, this is like the recipe or whatever. It needs a prospect, a draft pick, this, the player now, and all that different things. But there is also a theory that they could just want Lafreniere and something else like that. There's a way, like if Eichel's back to being
not from what I'm hearing.
No, that would be craziness.
No,
why would you do that?
Why would that be crazy?
I spoke directly to a general manager who said they have not budged. Off of their
but the kind of players they're talking about are not. Listen for a second. The kind of players they're talking about to this point, are one way that they haven't really talked about a Lafreniere type player.
No, but we've talked. It's a package, Jack. We're talking we talked about this on the show 3 or 4 months ago. It's like if you're talking about the Rangers, it's Kakko, Lundqvist. Maybe one of the goaltenders and a first-round pick. That's the kind of package that Buffalo wants. They've stepped off that a little bit in terms of a conditional pick and based on how many games Eichel will play, but they still want 3 or 4 assets.
Yeah, here, let me put it this way. If what you're saying is if Toronto offered Austin Matthews, they would get off their 4 piece parcel. Yeah, I mean, certainly. And Lafreniere would certainly, get their attention. But, I think what they really want, based on what I've been told anyway, is they want to be able to cure a lot of problems.
Yes.
And that's why they've told everyone, we don't want to move off this because we need help in a lot of different areas. So one player for one player doesn't help us.
Young, retainable assets that are cheap and they are controllable because nobody right now.
Well, it's really nice for one thing.
Nobody right now wants to play
exactly
the Buffalo Sabres.
Exactly. Nobody wants to make that kind of trade right now. I mean, the reality is things are. We all know what they want.
Play for the Sabres.
Nobody
wants to be there right now. That's what he's saying.
I get that too, but that doesn't necessarily matter when you're
right now.
It doesn't matter for some players when they're traded. It does. Like some players have no movement clause.
It does when you going to become a free agent.
Lafreniere doesn't have a no movement clause. Lafreniere doesn't have a no movement.
Of course he doesn't. But never mind. Just move on.
Just because he's 6 years away from unrestricted free agency doesn't mean that if he gets traded, he wants to go to Buffalo. Right now, Buffalo is a tire fire. And right now
that's debatable, but that's not always these. But they are going to get players to go there. Their reality is players are under contract and have to go places.
Not until management changes, right? So you look about it. Ottawa used to be a problem. Ottawa has redeemed itself to a certain extent, and you look at the pipeline of what they have. The mentality has changed there. Buffalo, it is not, and that's part of the problem. It's an optic thing also right now, more so than anything else.
That's not what I'm saying, though.
If you're, it's possible that at some point they'll back off that, but they haven't backed off it yet.
Right?
They supposedly wanted, as Mike said, they wanted Kakko. They may have wanted Hedel. I've heard Lundqvist or Jones may be in the deal. I've heard a number 1 and Georgiev or something else and the assets. What they've talked about. The names have not substantively changed, nor has the package substantively changed.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like the Eric Lindros deal for me.
Give me 1 second. 1 second, then we do this. Russ and Jan. I'm offering you Lafreniere and a first-round pick for Eichel.
I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it either. I can't fit. How am I fitting $10 million?
And how am I fitting him too? That's true.
How am I fitting $10 million? Okay. Are you eating $5 million in salary to get him over here?
No.
Then thank you very much, but you can't do it. It's unless you figure a way to look.
The answer.
Enjoy the dial tone.
Look, as much as I talked about the Chris Kreider contract when it happened, none of us knew the pandemic was coming, right? That contract now, honestly, is an albatross because they would probably love.
I'll take that.
I disagree. I don't think it's an albatross.
I'll take that contract and help you out. Now what?
No. Not doing it. Thank you.
Heck, they want multiple assets.
I know what they want, Mike, but they're not.
I wouldn't even want it because he has to go through a surgery. I don't know what he's going to be like after the surgery, exactly. and I don't know how long his career will last because of the surgery. I don't know any.
If let's just take the surgery. If he goes through the surgery and he returns and he's 100%, and they know that he tries out for everybody, okay? Yep. Now what are we talking about?
Well, if he's got 10 goals in 10 games after he comes off of the surgery, call me then.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that prior to his poor season last year, he was one of the more consistent centers in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, he's one of
no question.
He was 5 years of 26 goals or more.
He's had a better start than Lafreniere had.
He's one of the 5 best centers in the league.
Yeah,
so he's healthy. when
if he's
healthy.
healthy,
That's the caveat right now.
Right.
Nobody knows exactly how long it's going to take him to get back to that stage, and you're not
right.
giving up 5 assets for a guy who you don't know
I
whether or
agree.
not he's going to make it back.
Okay, couple quick things.
Move on, sorry.
The trade between Florida and Vancouver, it looks as if it's a minor deal, but Russ Ulevy, former 5th overall pick, Vancouver after a few years just really gave up on him and said we got to move on.
I mean, I don't know if they gave up on him, and maybe they did him a favor. I think the change of scenery could be good because I think the fan base puts the weight of him being that top pick, but I don't think they should because he's had some injuries and he's not the same guy. Now, is he NHL serviceable? Yeah, I do think he is NHL serviceable. And I think in a new regime, nobody's going to have these expectations for him. Definitely not in Florida. So I think this is good for everybody. And I think, honestly, that's why the trade was made.
Well, this is Bill Zito and his ties to Finland because
never discount Zito's ties to Finland.
Yes.
No, true.
I'll tell you he knows guys in Finland. He talked to people in Finland, I am sure, about this player in depth. Zito was one of the best. He represented Tuukka Rask. He represented Kimmo Timonen. He represented a lot of great Finnish players. And he knows, and every summer Zito goes to Finland and spends time over there with people. He is, and this is why, when they used to joke around in Columbus all the time saying Kukalainen, is picking all these Finns, I'm thinking that might be Zito bringing those Finns in, It's just as much as, as that's how Zito met Kukalainen through the Finland connection. But there's no question that he loves Finnish players. And if he has some of his scouts who are over there, who used to work for Acme Sports, which was his agency, who were probably telling him about this kid way back when, that you should try to get a hold of this kid, to the agency. I would give this a shot. I would see how this plays out. He probably knows something about this guy, and he's willing to give it a chance.
It's just a question of whether Quenneville will buy in, because we know Quenneville likes his players, and if he's not one of his players, then he's not going to play. A couple other things quickly. A lot of late contracts, PTOs that were signed. James Neal with St. Louis. Eric Gustafson was PTO with the Islanders. He signs with Chicago. Russ, I mean, as long as he's your power play quarterback, fine.
He's going back to where he has most success.
Everybody's going to be like, hey, he had a 60-point season once, whatever. Just show me.
With Chicago, though, right? With Chicago.
What that signing really says is how bad Chicago's defense was after, Seth Jones and
and we talked about it.
And they have two guys who are out now, hurt also now, right? Jones is out, then
Caleb Jones is out.
So that's 2 absences they need to fill.
Yeah, it's a really weak defense after the top pairing there.
Yeah, a couple others. Jimmy Vesey with the Devils 1 year. Jack Johnson with Colorado. Freddie Gauthier with New Jersey. Tyler Ennis with Ottawa. Alex Galchenyuk with Arizona. And supposedly Brian Boyle is going to sign today with Pittsburgh. So
the Red Wings released Bobby Ryan from his tryout.
He did. Okay, interesting. I hope he finds a place somewhere. I hope Bobby Ryan finds a place.
Yeah, I think everybody does, including the Red Wings. They really are fond of him, but I think ultimately they decided if they were going to make an addition to their roster, it should be a rookie. I mean, they are a rebuilding team.
That makes total sense.
I'll say it like this:
make total sense for them to do that.
If Jack Johnson got a contract, and we're assuming it's not to just give him money because of his problems, but because of his toughness and the fact that he'll mix it up. Bobby Ryan should get a contract way before Jack Johnson. That's just in my estimation.
Yeah, although I did hear, and who knows what this means, but I was told from someone who was there that he played pretty well for them.
I watched Jack Johnson when he was with the Rangers and he couldn't play. Now, maybe he's done something to change that, or maybe it was preseason and he played well in that. We'll see.
Yeah, he's been bad for a while.
He has been. He also has the same agent as Nathan McKinnon, so that there can't. If you want conspiracy theories, there you go.
Now,
sorry, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't think that's true, but I'm just saying. It is interesting. Someone immediately texted me that.
This shouldn't be a big surprise, but Kevin, John Cooper gets a 3-year contract extension. I mean, he won 2 Stanley Cups. I'm surprised, they didn't basically give him the key to the city.
Yeah, no, I've been saying this for a while, almost since he arrived there. But he, to me, is the prototype of the modern coach.
Oh yeah.
He still has, some pretty tough, in-your-face talks. But he's an excellent communicator. I think he's one of those X's and O's guys. He's very modern in his approach. I think he uses advanced stats the right way. Like he does it, the right way. He's still kind of old school in his mentality, but very modern in his approach. And it really works there. I think guys find him interesting. I don't think they get bored with him.
Players don't speak out against him when they leave and say, "Boy, I hated that coach," or say, "You never see anything."
That's. I just think that's the model you want for a coach now is just the way he does things. And from what I understand, he has a great relationship with Brisebois, where there's some give and take on players, and that's what you want. Like the GM's still got to be in charge. There's no doubt, because someone needs to make the final decision, and you don't want a wishy-washy guy. But I think Brisebois takes into account what Cooper's opinions are.
I've watched some press conferences, Kev, and you could really see where Brisebois does that. Like it's just the way he talks about Cooper. There's so much respect there that he definitely runs everything by him, and they do come to sort of an agreement.
And contrast that to the way like Quenneville has operated through the years, or Mike Babcock,
right?
Who whatever, when Ken Holland, when he was in Detroit, would bring a guy in, he was never quite sure what Babcock was going to do with the guy,
Right.
And in Chicago, it was the same way. And I think to, probably the same extent, probably in Florida, but I think Bill Zito has come in and found, a way to have a meeting of the minds with him, and it's so far worked out.
Yeah, ask Frankie Corrado, Russ. Finally, before we get to our Metro predictions or preview, if you needed proof that Alan Walsh was a weasel, the piece in the Las Vegas Review-Journal today is indicative of him being that, because according to the article, Walsh looked to submarine the Vegas Golden Knights and their attempt to trade Marc-Andre Fleury by spreading the news via social media that Fleury would retire if he was traded from Vegas. And they were in Vegas. The Vegas management was in communication with Fleury and Walsh until they found out, according to the article, that he was working behind the scenes to undercut them. And then they just said, okay, you know what? We're making the deal. That's it. And Fleury learned about the deal via Twitter because his agent was looking to sabotage what they were trying to do. That's just low. Really.
Look, I trust George McPhee. I chatted with him. He's a straight shooter. So if he's given the quote, I'm looking at it.
It's just, really, it's just, come on.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, so let's get on to this crazy division that we call the Metro Division. There's no way we can be all on the same page with this one. This is like, there's no way that I'm on the same page with myself hour to hour on this one. Like this is.
I think we can all be on the same page for one thing. The Columbus Blue Jackets are 8th place.
Anyone have an issue with that?
Nope.
No, I don't.
All right, let's end that there. I agree with you. It's also, it's something, I don't want to do that because I always feel like everybody thinks something's gonna happen, but this one I'm actually gonna agree with all of you. So just mark this moment down.
Yeah, Mr. Counterintuitive.
Because I'm actually going with you on this one. All right, so let's move on to the to 7th, because 7th gets a lot harder, or does it? People are all obviously. I'm gonna. The elephant in the room here is the New Jersey Devils, right? Like the New Jersey Devils.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the obvious choice is the best choice. So.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes the obvious is the best. Like Kevin, as you always tell me, there's always going to be a team that's going to like surprise the hell out of us, right? So this is
absolutely.
And a lot of people when I hear people when I've been around reading and listening to New Jersey comes up today. What's his name? Our good friend who does the 30 and 30 podcast with Elliot Friedman.
Jeff Merrick.
Yeah, Jeff. One of my guys I respect the most. He comes out and says he thinks the Devils are the surprise team, right? So
Well, and the news came out today that Mackenzie Blackwood apparently in the next few weeks will get the vaccine. So I'm not sure the reason why of the sudden change of heart, but
but he's still going to miss games. He's going to miss games until those next few weeks. And then after his second vax, he's going to miss games. And so I think it's too much for the Devils, and I'm putting him in that spot.
Did they explain the delay in getting that? Does he has to muster the courage or what?
They didn't explain. The report just said he said in the next few weeks. It didn't say why.
Here's
why.
Here's what a New Jersey source told me that this is why. Blackwood said in his media, this was a text, and Blackwood said his media availability yesterday that he is leaning towards getting the vaccine in a few weeks. The people they had working him basically to do this were his mother, who we talked about. There was a Zoom meeting last week between Josh Harris, Dave Blitzer, Tom Ruff, Nico Hersher, Mackenzie Blackwood's mom, and Tom Fitzgerald. They were just to try to convince him to do this. They had like a Zoom meeting about this.
Can you imagine all of that? My dad would just sit me down and said, "Go get the bleeping vaccine." That's what my dad's a calm guy, but that's what he would do.
Imagine being on a business Zoom meeting with your mom.
No.
Throw that out there for a second.
It's a weird thing.
Eric calls me up and says, "Zach, we're going to talk about the bloggers today. I have Mike here, I have Kevin, and I brought in your mom."
In my family, it was the exact opposite. I had to convince my mom to get the vaccine.
Right. Anyway, we're not going to talk anymore about vaccines. We promised no vaccine talk, but this is an issue with the Devils. So
going back to the Devils,
yes.
I know why he's saying that. Like, I've said all along that beyond the Columbus Blue Jackets, and there's even a little hesitancy with me about the Blue Jackets. I think every other team has an okay chance of making the playoffs.
Yes.
Like even the Devils. I mean, the Devils are going to be better. There's no doubt. They've made some nice off-season acquisitions.
Yeah.
So, it's possible. But someone's got to finish seventh, and I think the track record of those other teams, and, like the Rangers are on an upward trajectory. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
The Islanders are good. I think, the Flyers did the most of any team in that division to improve in the offseason. So by process of elimination, I got the Devils there, but I'm not comfortable with that.
If you go to MGM odds
they
here,
all have a chance. Everybody but Columbus has a chance.
Right. Interesting thing about the odds makers feel that way too, because the odds makers have I won't tell you their order yet, but from 1 to 7, they have the top team at 97.5 points as the over-under on points, right? The top team in the division, 97.5. And the Devils, who they have at 7th, at 88.5. So that is only a 9-point difference between 7 teams. That's pretty. I mean, that's crazy when you think about it. That does have the Devils 9 points out, but that is a 9-point difference between 7 teams. So this is so crazy tight.
Well, I'll step, because I think we're in general consensus of the bottom two based on what we just said. I'll stick my neck out for the 6th place and pick the Washington Capitals.
And Mike, I agree with you. That's my 7th place actually. So we aren't on general. I'm not a Devils 7. I'm not Devils. I am not Devils in 6th. I'm not Devils in 7th. I am Capitals in 7th. But continue on your thought on the Capitals.
Okay. Unless Samsonov has a big year, I mean, I don't think he really. They went to Vanacek mostly last year, and then had to rearrange to get him back from Seattle. I'm concerned about the absence of Backstrom. I mean, from what I've heard, Ovechkin's injury is not very serious. So it's, but without Backstrom, and I don't like their defense. I'm just not. I'm starting to be convinced that they've crossed the Rubicon. That they're on the downslope rather than on the upslope, or rather at the top. So I'm not 100% convinced. They have a lot of talent there, but older talent. But I think they're going to finish out of the playoffs, and I picked them 6th.
Kevin?
6th? I thought you were 7th. No.
No.
Capital
6.
Oh, you have. Eck, you have him 7th. Okay.
I have him 7th. Yeah. Although Mantha is really good and young, and they do have some good young players too. But go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. I mean, so we're talking about now the Devils and
you're putting the Devils in 7th.
6th. 6th. I actually have the Penguins.
You're the Penguins. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and I haven't changed on that. I took them in my early pick as falling 6th. They haven't done anything. In that division. You got to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
Every season, they have not reinvented themselves. This is the same goalie. In fact, they've lost some good pieces. I thought Tanev was an important player for them. Yep. I thought he gave them a lot of energy, and he's gone.
McCann.
And, there's. I just don't think they're better. Now, the one thing I can tell you, and Mike can verify this, Brian Burke won't stand pat if they start out slowly. But that division is so unforgiving. I don't know if making a move into the season will be enough. I just think they should have done more. They still have Crosby, but Malkin's going to be gone 2 months. So
yeah, I don't know what move they can make, Kev, because so Malkin's out. I mean, are you going to trade a Zucker, or are you going to trade a Rust or somebody like that?
Zucker is one of the longest standing trade rumors in the league.
Yeah.
So he's been rumored, but with Gunsel, they're not. Last I heard, they weren't sure he was going to be ready for opening day. So, I just think, I don't remember the last time that I picked the Penguins to fall out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I know.
It's been a long time.
Probably pre-Crosby days.
So yeah,
I have him also finishing. I mean, again, Malkin's out for at least the first 22 games of this season, right?
Okay.
Crosby will be back probably a little earlier than expected. You have Gensel. I know it's not fully sold on Tristan Jarry between the pipes. I don't think their defense is particularly phenomenal. I mean, Letang is great, but unfortunately, Letang has been injury-prone his career and missed healthy amount of time. Matheson played fairly well last year, and I happen to be a big Gensel fan, but I don't think there's a lot right now coming through the system. Samuel Poolin's not necessarily ready. So I just think they take a step back again, and the same thing on Washington. I don't look – ever since they moved on from Trotz, that organization has been, somewhat bereft behind the bench to a certain extent. Again, the current coach is fine, but you saw it out when they went to Reardon, and you saw the difference Trotz made, even though they couldn't get over the hump until that last year. I just don't. I mean, if Backstrom's out, hopefully Kuznetsov takes a step forward, but he was brutal last year, and that's a major loss not having Nicholas Backstrom there if the hip injury keeps him out for long term.
Russ, what do you have going on here?
I have the Flyers 6th. There's 3 reasons.
Okay. Yep.
I don't trust Martin Jones, and if that's the case, that means Carter Hart has to be better than he's ever been in his career on the road. So we have to see if he can do that. I don't trust that they have enough goal scoring. They're going to have to prove that to me. They got a lot of passers, not a lot of shooters, and their fourth line is terribly slow. Teams are going to match up against that until AV figures out that you actually have to have someone fast on the fourth line these days. And if he doesn't, he gets that ultimate fourth line, but he's wanted that ever since his Vancouver and Ranger days. So I'm going Flyers 6th.
So Kevin, I want to bring out one thing. You said you were staying with the Penguins at 6. You actually had the Penguins at 7 in our way too early prediction.
Oh, they moved them up.
You moved them up. Right. You had the Devils at 6.
Oh, well, I guess I didn't remember that because I knew I had them down in the bottom.
Well, these were ridiculously early end of July predictions, but it is interesting to look back on it and see.
Yeah, well, and I can make a case that the Devils are better than the Penguins for sure.
Yeah.
So,
and Russ, I like your logic actually for the Flyers a lot there, and I that's why the Flyers have moved down on my list.
And I know I'm going to take heat for it, but I'm just being honest.
To number 5. I'm moving the Flyers to 5. So moving up to 5, so my bottom, I start with Columbus, then Washington, then New Jersey, then the Flyers. The Flyers at 5, and really all because of the same exact things that Russ said. I do have a little more faith in their scoring than you do, which is maybe why they're 5, not 6. But I don't have faith that you should be putting all of this much pressure on Carter Hart without like a backup that he doesn't have to worry about. Like if Carter Hart can't have to think he has to win every freaking game he's in there all the time, or else it's not going to make the playoffs. So I'm with you on the Carter Hart. Otherwise, and it's a shame because it's a tragic flaw in a way.
It is,
and they did so much great stuff to fix the defense. They did so much, but man, watching Martin Jones, I don't see it. And if I was them, that pick would change from 5 to 3 right now if they went out and signed Devin Dubnyk.
I think we're focusing too much on Martin Jones.
I agree.
I mean, right now, more than likely, I would say Carter Hart's going to play probably between 55 and 60 games. If you're going to play Martin Jones 30, then you have to worry because Martin Jones is the below sub 900.
All right. So, do you believe he could win 12 to 15 games, Mike? I don't.
I think more importantly is, do you think can Carter Hart be Carter Hart from a couple of years ago, if he's not, that team's not going anywhere.
And I think
for sure. Let me say this: I don't care what team we're talking about. If their number 1 goalie doesn't go well, they're not going anywhere.
Right, but this impacts the number 1 goalie.
But if you have a good backup, you can make up some of what you might not get of your number 1. Not completely. But do you trust Martin Jones to step in and be? Look,
No,
Montreal's got it with Jake Allen right now. I'd much rather have Jake Allen between the pipes and Martin Jones.
But Jones impacts the number one in my estimation. That's the problem here.
A team in the last year. Go ahead, Kev. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, when they got Martin Jones, you remember what I said? I said, look, Martin Jones deserves another chance, but not with a team like the Flyers. He should have been with Arizona or or whatever. Not a team where it really matters, and it matters with the Flyers. So I know he's to me that's a hurt, that's a negative on that team.
Let's put it this way: if they had gotten Ranta as opposed to Carolina, you'd feel a lot better about the goalie situation. Even though Ranta's hurt, because Ranta has been a better goalie historically in the last couple of years.
Devin Dubnyk's out there.
I'm just not. Yeah, I'm not convinced that Martin Jones will be the backup goalie by the end of the season.
There's no evidence that
you might be right.
There's no evidence that Devin Dubnyk wants to play anymore because of his situation, his family situation, or whatever was going on the last couple of years. But Carter Hart's task will be a lot easier than it was last year because Philadelphia upgraded so much on defense that they actually have a defense that is pretty decent.
Yeah.
So, if they limit shots on goal, if they're better defensively, if they're like an Alain Vigneault team, then I think that and I had them fourth. I had Pittsburgh fifth, and I had them fourth.
Well, we got to see him on the road, Mike. Carter Hart on the road. That's for, more games than he's usually played. We got to see.
There's a justifiable reason for skepticism. I will grant you that. And that's why I picked them no higher than fourth, because, there could be hiccups. And, if they get a 500 record out of Martin Jones, then they should consider themselves successful. But I think there's enough talent there that they're going to probably be the one of the two wild cards in the East.
All right, so Kevin, who do you have in this next spot then at 5?
At 4, yeah.
At 5, you'd be 4, right? Because you just did Pittsburgh was at 6.
Well, I've got Washington there.
Washington 5, okay.
Yeah, I've got them falling out of the playoffs. Just I just feel like they've gotten a little stale for all the reasons. Backstrom's injury, or really just what's left over from the surgery. That just hasn't gone well, and that affects obviously Ovechkin. I actually like their goaltending a little bit more. I've been following what's going on there, and there's been a real healthy competition there, and it looks like both of them have played pretty well there.
Really well.
Yeah, in training camp. So I think they feel pretty good about that. But, this division is tough, and I don't think that they've injected enough into that team to give them the edge they need in that division. So, we'll see. They've got one. Russ has talked about him a lot. I'm drawing a complete blank here. The center.
Connor McMichael.
They've got him. That I think with Backstrom's injury, I think he's got an opportunity there for him to kind of show what he's doing. But I've also read that people think it's too early for him, so we'll see.
Okay, so interesting. So I'm trying to see where you had the Capitals before, Kevin. You had them in this spot, yes. The same. You kept it the same place there.
Jan, who did you have at 5, and who did you have at 4?
Actually, no, I changed that around. You had Capitals at 3.
I did. Yeah, I moved it down.
Okay, yeah. Jan, your 5th pick?
I think I had Pittsburgh at 4 and Philly at 5.
Okay.
Philly at 5, okay.
5, I have Pittsburgh, but I think there's possibility for 5 playoff teams out of the Metro. I do. But with Pittsburgh, I think when Crosby is back, they could put Drew O'Connor with him, who's been scoring regularly in the preseason. He was a scorer at Dartmouth. The Penguins have a way of getting these guys on their team that have one good ability, and his one good ability is he has a great shot. You put him with a guy like Crosby, he could score 15, 17 goals. And now we're talking about like who the hell's Drew O'Connor, 2 months into the season. Right. Those kinds of things have kept them alive and kept this playoff streak alive. And that's why I can't count them out yet.
So I'm doing a 2014 50-man draft, and I drafted Drew O'Connor. So I like hearing that. Thanks, Russ.
There you go.
Yeah. All right.
He's the new Brian Rust, by the way. So
there we go.
I'll take it.
The new Brian
Rust
right now.
He could be.
Yeah. So to me, this is where I put Pittsburgh Penguins at 4 as well. Like you guys did. I do think that the Penguins and Flyers is going to be a tale of goaltending. Whoever finishes 4, whoever finishes 5. To me, that's sort of where I see it. possibly.
I have more confidence in Carter Hart than I have in Tristan Jarry. I really do. I mean, maybe Jarry.
I do too.
Maybe Jarry's problems are more playoff related than regular season because he did have a decent regular season last year. But they were, both teams really have nothing to fall back on. If Jarry drops the ball, it's Casey to Smith.
Yeah, but the Smith has at least proven that for a short term he could do pretty well.
Yeah,
like if Jarry's not doing well for a little bit of time, they take him out. I think the Smith is filled in admirably.
I'm not saying he hasn't, but he's not a number one, Russ. It's not to take over.
No.
And to go off what Kevin said for a second, the Janusek has played really well for the Capitals.
Yeah.
And I talked to somebody down there this morning about this, and they said that they think that because I did my 10 wacky predictions blog today, and one of them was going to be, and it would have been my number 11, would be that Janusek becomes the starter by the end of the year, that he takes over the number one job.
Yeah.
Okay. Janusek, you mean for the Olympic team? Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to be the starter.
Vanacek. Okay, so we have the top three here. I have the Rangers at 3. The Rangers at 3. Their goaltending, both backup and starter, are solid. You've got the Norris Trophy winner on the blue line. I think you've got a couple really good young defensemen there, and a guy like Trouba. And I like their forwards, and now they locked up Zibanejad. That sort of with Kreider and Panarin. I think their young guys like Kakko and Lafreniere are going to grow and have better years than they did last year. There are some imperfections there, Russ, but I think there's enough there to be a top 3 in that division.
Yeah, I have the Capitals at 4.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I have the Caps at 4 is because I think everybody's overblown how bad they think their defense is. They just sent Michael Kempney down, and everybody's just learning about Martin Fehervary, who is probably twice as fast as when he got drafted, and he is a terrific defenseman. So they still have 5 good defensemen, and John Carlson is John Carlson again. That's a big thing too. I think he did have injuries last year, if I remember. It's hard to remember year to year, but I do think Samsonov is back to being Samsonov too. So I do think they're a little better than most think, and you just hope Ovechkin's not out for a long term. And then I have the Rangers at 3. I do think there's a few things to look out for. I do think they're a little too invested in toughness, but I like their goalie tandem. It's one of the best in the league. I do think some of their young guys will come through. Kakko's looking a little better this preseason, so that's a little hope. And I know Lafreniere looks better already. I've seen some really good plays out of him. So with that and what they have, I can gamble on them.
All right, Jan, who do you have at 3?
So I agree with Russ. So, I mean, a couple of things that broke just while we were talking here. They sent Kravtsov down to start the season, which I vehemently disagree with. So a couple of reasons. First of all, we saw what happened a couple of years ago when he sent down and how he ended up not handling it well mentally, ended up going back to the KHL. Not that you make a move because of that, but given the cap room they have right now, there's no reason not to keep 14 forwards if they were so concerned about using Julian Gaultier or Dryden Hunt on waivers. And B, if your big concern is whether or not somebody's going to claim Libor Hayek, if you're going to put him on waivers, nobody's taking a flyer on Libor Hayek that much anyway. I do think they'll be better offensively. Lafreniere gained some weight, stronger, faster. Kakko looks completely like a different guy from when he was drafted. You hopefully have a little bit of return to form by Kreider. Defensively, you added a Patrick Nemeth, which we talked about Jack Johnson, is a big upgrade over Jack Johnson. I think he's an upgrade over Brendan Smith. Niels Lundqvist, who's not in the lineup opening night, will also get some time. They've remade the bottom 6, and I disagree with the movement to get toughness. Part of it was Jeff Gordon got let go. We all knew they were going to make a major change this year to try to add some toughness. So getting rid of Gordon and Davidson didn't make a lot of sense. I do think Shesterkin takes a big step forward this year. A year past the Lundqvist legacy, I'm a little not as sold on Georgiev, but if Kincaid had to come up and get some games in there to back up Shesterkin, I think he can do it. So I actually have them 3rd in the division as well.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Where are you, Kev, with 3rd?
Well, I didn't say 4th. I've actually moved
4th
down to 4th. And if you remember, in my way too early, I went with them, reacting to their off-season acquisitions in first place. But subsequent to that, obviously, there's a lot more enthusiasm about the Rangers. And I think the positive outlook of the Rangers is really crucial for them. They just feel good about their younger players. And I've also heard from pretty good hockey people that Kakko is playing at a much higher level than he did last. To me, he's been a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, no question. Up to this point, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that we expected more out of him given where he was drafted, but I think their goaltending is going to really come of age this time. Their defense. I mean, we just forget how young Fox is, and he's already won the Norris. Speaking of those gambling sites, the over and under on points for him on those gambling sites is 71.
Wow.
Now you can say, well, the guy doesn't know what he's doing. Well, those guys that make those things, they know a lot about what's going on, just in terms of
Rangers have a lot of good power play guys, so it's not outlandish.
No, that's a lot of points. So, and Lafreniere obviously is going to be a year older, and Zibanejad is farther away from COVID. There's just too many pluses on that team not to think they're moving in. And the Flyers, you guys have all mentioned some of the issues there. I'm still bullish on them. I still think they're a playoff team. But, as I continue to say, like, nothing would surprise me in this division. I think it's very close and very, very tight. When I did my comparisons of the coaches, I think they kind of fall short, the Flyers I'm speaking of, in that regard compared to the coaching elsewhere in the division.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So you have Flyers at 4, Rangers at 3. All right, my number 3 is the Carolina Hurricanes, who it's a really hard team to predict. Like, I could put them anywhere from 1 to 3. Like, I go back and forth in my head. Like, I honestly think they could win this division. These top 3 teams are all kind of really close to me. But the only thing I'll say about Carolina is, the loss of Hamilton is going to affect them. There's no question about that. And I'm not the hugest Freddie Anderson fan. So, and we'll see how that plays out. No, I'm not talking against it, but I'm just saying, but I wasn't a big fan of their goalies before either. So I really can't change that. As you guys know, I always underestimate the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't know what it is about them. I can't lynch. I just can't. I can't get right into them into my head as good as they are. They're better than I think they are all the time, and they always finish higher than I think they will every year. So I should not be putting them at 3, but I am. I'm putting them at 3, and I like the Kotkaniemi pick up a lot. I think that's going to be. I can't wait to see what he does there when he's freed from that Montreal circus. So they could be number 1, but I'm going with number 3. Number 2 for me is where I put the Rangers, and that's and I think I think that one of the most interesting things this year will be the combination, the battle between Sorokin and Shesterkin. I think that those 2 goalies, to see who comes out on top of as this year plays out, is going to be fascinating. I'm about to do a blog that's who's better, like right now between the 2 of them.
There's a shock with that when it comes to Sorokin.
Yeah, we know you picked.
Wait, let me fall over. Hold on. Okay, I picked myself.
But if you
picked Sorokin for the Vezina and for the Hart.
All right, but if you go to MGM's site, I was on gambling sites, and I was trying to see what where they had these guys in there as far as prospects of winning the Vezina, and I think Shesterkin, he's I forget what it was, but it was ridiculous. Like, he's definitely a good bet. If you want to throw some money down on Shesterkin to possibly win the Vezina, it's possible. It is possible he could win it. I'm watching him play in the preseason this year. He just looks even better than he did before to me, and he really has. He's the thing I love about the Rangers, and by the way, even though I have them coming in second, I want to mention that in my top 10 wacky predictions, I do have the Rangers winning the Eastern Conference and going to the Stanley Cup Finals. Okay, so
Here's the Ek curse.
No.
Thanks, Zach. I'm blaming you.
I'm just saying, no, because this is the thing. Their lineup plus Gerard Gallant, Gallant's style needs to have fast young players to play it, which he has. With Adam Fox, like the fantastic defenseman for Gallant's game, and he needs to have a goalie who's going to have to make big saves at times, because the style does leave yourself open, and at times you are going to. And they are really attack style. So Shesterkin that's why Marc-Andre Fleury worked. That's why Shesterkin will work. This team's going to be really hard to eliminate in a playoff series. So that's why I think they're going.
I have Carolina at 2. Even though, I was a Freddie Anderson backer for 4 of the 5 years in Toronto. Last year he was not good, and then he got injured. I think their combo of Anderson and Ranta is a significant upgrade over Reimer and Mrazek, because Reimer was pretty much a 0 there. Their defense is not as good as it was, obviously losing Hamilton, but it's not terrible. It's it's like you've got Slavin, Shea, Pesce, Cole, Bear, and probably the number 6 is the weak spot because it's probably going to be Brendan Smith. But their forwards are just as good. If their forwards are really good, adding Kotkaniemi. So, I mean, I don't think they're as good as the team that I picked first, but I think they're pretty solid throughout. So, Russ, do you have them at 2? Or
No, I had the Islanders at 2 because 2 reasons. The road trip and the fact that Barry Trotz just said today that Semyon Varlamov is just resting. Okay, Barry, that's great. And he's skating. And he could be back in a little bit, he would think. Like, all right, come on, guys. He hasn't played it all in the preseason. He wasn't in training camp. If you start him without even playing a minute of a game, I'll fall over because I just don't think they're going to do
going
it.
on here they don't want to talk about.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, it's just these quotes are ridiculous. And I just think it is going to affect the team because the more you have Corey Schneider in, the more you're risking some early season losses because you can't overload the goaltending. You can't overload Sorokin on that 13-game road trip. You just can't. So I do think that prevents them from winning the division, but they're still a great team and could still go all the way.
Yeah. So my 1, 2, 3 Islanders, Rangers. We can all do our 1, 2, 3s here, basically. So,
all right. Well, I have Carolina winning the division.
You got Carolina. Go ahead.
And it's not because of Freddie Anderson, but they have a really great team.
They definitely do.
Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I have the Islanders winning the division. I was fascinated by. I watched the NHL Network's fantasy poll, and they predict Sorokin will lead the league in shutouts. You just hear like an undercurrent around the league, like people think that Sorokin's going to end up playing the majority of games there. Like there's something going on. So I'm usually not in the conspiracy camp with Eck, but I'm standing there with him now next to him. I don't know what's going on.
Plenty of room, Kevin. There's always plenty of room. I'm actually the only one in there usually, so hey.
Yeah. So, I don't know if there's anything going on, but it does seem a bit odd that people are sort of acting like this is going to happen. I love Carolina's team. I actually think their defense is better than a lot of people do. I think Ethan Bear knows what his limitations are. I think he's been really a nice addition to that as well. And the Rod Brendamore factor is very important. He's an excellent coach. He, it's the old school trick of he's always able to get the most out of his teams. And I think he'll be able to do that. I don't know about their goaltending. I saw Freddie Anderson play the other night against Nashville, and it was not inspiring. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that.
Remember how they played in front of David Ayers? They're going to play that way in front of Anderson.
Yeah. I mean, Slavin is such an incredibly good defenseman. Like, I don't know. In today's game, like he's almost the perfect defenseman because he's not a great offensive player, but he's got a good first pass and he's so solid defensively and he's always where he needs to be. So I like them a lot. I still love the Islanders. I think the Chara acquisition is just those little pieces that Lamoriello adds that make his team a little bit better. So those are my 2.
I had Islanders 1, Carolina 2, and Rangers 3. I think the Islanders, if Varlamov's out a significant period of time, that's going to affect them. But they're so solid defensively, and they're pretty much bringing back everybody except for Eberle. That they traded Leddy, I know that, but they're pretty much bringing back the entire team that got within a goal of beating Tampa Bay. So just for that reason, I think they're they're going to finish first in that division. Just breaking news, Zach, because we have the waiver.
Yeah, real quick, Jan, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll go.
Sorry. So in terms of 3, I already told you was the Rangers. 2, I have the Islanders, and it's very close with Carolina for 1. I mean, Carolina. Firstly, I thought they should have kept Ned as their goaltender. I'm not as sold on Anderson. And Mike, you can say all you want about Anderson until we hit April. When April rolled around, you basically were kicking and screaming and yelling and ranting and raving how bad he was between the pipes for your.
He was hurt.
So I don't know if I trust him come playoff time. I do think the Hamilton loss will hurt, but Kotkaniemi lengthens their lineup. The interesting part is going to be whether or not they re-up Trocheck to be their number 2 seed down the road, or what they do. Castell signed for a couple more years as their third-line center. But I do think it's close between them and the Islanders. I think you can have like a point or 2 separating the two, so I think you could easily flip-flop the 2 of them. Lamoriello once again somehow has his mind just Jedi mind trick on everybody, where nobody talks about contracts until they actually come out the last day. But adding Chara gives him a good 6D. Parise is a guy they've wanted for years, gives him a nice third liner. The interesting part I want to see, and the thing that may hurt them, I want to see what they do with Oliver Wahlstrom, because there were rumors he was going to go down to the AHL and had a pretty brutal camp, and they need his scoring up front with Bouvier for them to kind of hit the next level. For bringing back Palmieri, he should be a lot better this year in the regular season than he was last year after he came to the Islanders.
Right now, Parise is playing with Wahlstrom on the line. You know, that it's like they've had Parise up in a scoring type role, which is kind of fascinating. All right, Mike, what do we have going on here? What's going on?
Okay, Seattle claimed Alex Barboulay from Tampa Bay. Not a surprise. I was surprised he was put on waivers, but Russ, I mean, he's pretty good.
No, he's a good player. Kid could score. He's a decent skater. It's funny because I'm glad that I'm wrong on this, because on another show that I do, Locked on Flyers, it's called, I said Seattle should take him because he's better than some of the guys in their lineup. Yeah. So they've made themselves better here.
And of course, Montreal claims Adam Brooks off of the Leafs, which means that Adam Brooks will play against the Leafs in the season opener on Wednesday, so he doesn't have to go anywhere. The Flyers claim Patrick Brown. I have to say, I don't know who Patrick Brown is, and I
don't know him.
Me neither. But the interesting part about Barboulay is they had the third pick, Seattle, and he made it to third. I really thought he was going to go first overall in terms of claims.
I think Patrick Brown played for Carolina, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm just looking him up right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, Vegas. He was with Vegas. Okay, formerly with Carolina, 2 years in Vegas, only played. Yeah, that's a little strange.
Is he like 6'2", 200 pounds, Mike?
Patrick Brown is 5'11", 214 pounds.
Okay, so he is stocky. All right.
And as I suspected, Russ, the Capitals reclaim Axel Janssen-Fowler.
Yeah, we talked about that last night. Yeah,
that was definitely a favor done by Kevin Adams for the Washington Capitals, because now they can get him back down to they'll get him back down to Hershey, and the other
smart move by the Caps reclaiming him.
And Michael Del Cole is on waivers with the Islanders.
It's almost like a permanent state of being for him.
Yeah, it's a shame. If his skating was a little better,
was it 50 went overall?
Yeah, I think 50 is about right. If his skating were a little better, I think it would be different. I just think he doesn't play good enough defense to not be fast enough to not score enough. So he just always on the outside looking in. It's a shame.
Injury news: Austin Matthews will not play this week, meaning he'll miss the first 3 games.
That stinks.
Montreal.
But he will rank mustaches, Mike. He will rank mustaches.
He's always like the killer guy on opening night. Like he's an opening night killer.
That's true.
He's always had these incredible
4 goals his
night.
first game.
Yeah, and last year too, he had like a great.
So much for your 65 goal prediction.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
We just have to do it in 3 less games, Mike. That's all.
And Ilya Mikheyev broke his thumb in the game, the last preseason game. He's out 8 weeks.
Oof.
So that's not
tough out of the gate for the Leafs there. That's tough.
All right.
No, that's rough. All right. Well, I guess that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thanks, Jan, for jumping on. Thank you, Kevin. We'll be back again tomorrow to talk about another division, and then we'll be back on Wednesday probably with Kevin if we can get Kevin.
We'll do the Atlantic on Wednesday with Kevin.
We'll do the Atlantic on Wednesday with Kevin. So we'll see where we are. Remember, folks, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.